All right, so when you think about the British invasion, right, there are two names that just instantly pop into your head. You've got this perfect matchup, this classic duality, right? On one side, the melodic genius of the Beatles, on the other, the raw, kind of dangerous rebellion of the Rolling Stones. And look, it's a great story. It's simple, it's powerful, and it's pretty much defined how we've all thought about 60s music for, well, for decades. But what if that story is missing a huge piece of the puzzle? What if there was another band? A band that was just as important, who actually built the harmonic backbone for a ton of the pop music that followed? Well, that's exactly what we're going to get into today. We are talking, of course, about the Hollies. I like to think of them as the essential third pillar of the British invasion. And what's cool is their story doesn't kick off in some gritty Liverpool club or a smoky London blues joint. Nope, it starts in a schoolyard in Manchester. So you had the heart of the band, Alan Clark and Graham Nash. These guys were childhood friends, and they were completely obsessed with American harmony groups, especially the Everly Brothers. I mean, they spent years just practicing getting those harmonies perfect. They eventually named the band after another hero, Buddy Holly. But the real magic, the moment the machine really clicks into gear, is 1963. That's when Tony Hicks and Bobby Elliott join, and they bring this whole other level of musical skill that just set the Hollies apart from everyone else. And man, that machine, it created a sound that was just totally unique. This wasn't just a few guys singing at the same time. No way. This was like architectural. It was a precise, carefully built structure of voices. They actually had a name for it, the V formation. Think about it like this. You have Clark and Nash, two high tenors, locked so tight they almost sound like a single voice. And that voice is pushed way up front in the mix. Then, holding it all down, you've got Tony Hicks with his baritone harmony acting as the anchor. What you get is this unbelievably dense, almost choir-like sound. That was their signature. You heard it, you knew it was the Hollies. And it wasn't just the vocals. It was the whole shebang. You had that vocal precision, sure, but you also had Tony Hicks's absolutely killer guitar playing. And the songs, they were these perfectly polished pop gems, like little 3-minute dramas. A lot of those were written by a guy named Graham Goldman, who had later formed 10cc, and he gave them enormous hits, like the classic Bus Stop. This quote from Graham Nash just says it all, doesn't it? It shows you the insane level of discipline they had. This wasn't just raw talent, this was obsessive. Nash wasn't just listening to Clark's voice, he was literally watching his mouth to copy the phrasing exactly. He was mirroring him to get that completely seamless blend. That level of precision was, it was practically unheard of back then. But here's the thing about a perfect formula. Sometimes it can start to feel like a cage, and that's exactly what happened. As the 60s wore on and music got more experimental, that pop precision started to become a creative prison, especially for Graham Nash. Okay, so you can see this whole internal battle play out perfectly in just two songs. On one hand, you have King Midas in reverse. This was Nash's baby. Ambitious, orchestral, complex, and it kind of flopped, only hitting number 18. So the band gets nervous and they rush release Jennifer Eccles, which is the total opposite. It's simple, it's super poppy, and Nash apparently despised it. And what happens? It shoots to number 7. The writing was on the wall. The band's pop formula was winning the war against Nash's artistic ambitions. And then came the final straw. The band decided they wanted to record an entire album of Bob Dylan covers. Now, you gotta remember, at this point, Nash is hanging out in California, getting pulled into the whole Laurel Canyon scene with guys like David Crosby and Stephen Stills. To him, a Dylan covers album was just sickly, as he put it. It was a step backwards, and that was it. He quit in 1968. Just like that, one of the great partnerships in pop music was done. Now, for pretty much any other band, losing a key songwriter and a signature voice like Graham Nash, that would be game over. A total death sentence, but the Hollies weren't most bands. And honestly, this is where their story goes from interesting to absolutely remarkable. So what they do? Did they panic? Nope. They made a smart, strategic move. They brought in Terry Sylvester from the swinging Blue Jeans. This totally changed their vocal sound, making Alan Clark the clear, undisputed lead. And what's the first thing they do with this new lineup? They record this epic ballad, He Ain't Heavy, He's My Brother, with a little help from a young session pianist named Elton John. And bam, it becomes one of the biggest hits they ever had. Talk about a statement. The Hollies were telling the world they were very, very far from finished. Okay, but get ready for this, because this is a great twist. We've been talking this whole time about their signature sound, right? That 3-part harmony machine. So let me ask you,
On their biggest American hit, how many of those trademark harmonies do you think there are? The answer? 0. Not a single one.
Yeah, in 1972, they put out this song called Long, Cool Woman in a Black Dress, and it's this raw, swamp rock jam that sounds nothing like the Hollies. It sounds way more like Creedence Clearwater Revival. There are no harmonies, just Alan Clark belting out this raw lead vocal. And guess what? America went crazy for it. It hit number 2 on the charts. It's this amazing paradox. Their biggest US hit was a song that sounded the least like them. And as you can see right here, their success in the 70s was just undeniable. You look at He Ain't Heavy, Long Cool Woman, and then that gorgeous ballad, The Air That I Breathe. These were massive global hits. It just proves they nailed a second act that was every bit as successful, maybe even more successful than their first. And that ability to survive, to reinvent themselves, that really speaks to their ultimate legacy. And that legacy is all about an incredible, almost unheard of level of continuity. I mean, just look at this. The Beatles, as a band, lasted what, less than 10 years? The Hollies, they have been actively touring and recording music across 7 decades. Think about that. They never had the big dramatic breakup. They just kept on going. And here's the part that really blows my mind. The core of the band, Tony Hicks and Bobby Elliott, the guys who locked in that classic lineup way back in 1963, they are still in the band today. That is more than 60 years. 60 years in the same band. It's just astonishing. And their influence, it really is everywhere. You can hear it in bands from the Bee Gees all the way to Oasis, who were always proud to claim them as Manchester legends. They've got the prestigious Ivor Novello Award, and in 2010, they finally got the nod for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Their place among the greats is officially cemented. So when you step back and look at the whole picture, the Hollies were so much more than just another 60s pop group. They were the engineers, you know? They built the harmonic bridge that so many other bands would walk across. They were the ultimate survivors, and they were, without a single doubt, the unsung architects of British pop. And that leaves us with one last thing to think about. We love to celebrate the rebels in music, right? The brilliant flames that burn bright and then just burn out. But the story of the Hollies makes you wonder, when it comes to building a legacy that truly lasts for decades, is that kind of resilience actually more important than rebellion?